Hi, my name's Lauren Platt, and I'm one of the students who is on the speaker committee for the event. And I'm really excited to introduce our next session, which is a bunch of students who are going to be giving short, quick TED Talks. On behalf of the speaker committee, I just want to thank all the applications. I really can't express to you guys, we had a lot of applications for these talks, and it was very, very, very difficult to choose. But I also am very excited about every speaker that we did choose today. We wanted to choose speakers that were going to talk about really different things, so we hope you guys agree, and provocative things. And also, I just want to add, we gave them a very short period of time to pitch their ideas, but we hope that all of you guys, if you're interested in what our speakers are talking about, will come up afterwards and talk to them during the reception. So without further ado, I'd like to announce Ian Bolliger, who is a PhD student currently at UC Berkeley. He is a National Defense Science Engineering Graduate Fellow, and he's worked in environmental conservation, geoscience, and quantitative global health. He's currently pursuing his PhD in the Energy and Resource Group at Berkeley, and also a master's in systems engineering. Outside of academia, he also writes a blog, theinertia.com, so you guys can check that out. And prior to graduate school, he developed and managed models to predict the health burden of injuries as part of the global burden of disease study at the Institute for Health Metrics. So here's Ian.
Thanks, Lauren. Is this thing on? Can you hear me in the back? All right. Thanks, Lauren, and thanks everybody for coming back after your breakout sessions to listen to me. I'm going to put this down. Listen to me talk about snow for the next few minutes. So I want to start out with a question, and that's phrased pretty intentionally because I know if I said I want to start out with a quiz, we'd have about 50 med students standing up and walking out the back doors. So I want to start off with a question about the California drought. And the question is, what fraction of the average annual precipitation do you think that California received in 2015? Which by most metrics was considered the worst of the recent drought, the worst year of the recent drought. And to benchmark that, I will tell you that in 2014, which we probably all know was also a pretty bad year, that number was just over half. So I'll give you a second to think about that, but not too long because I only have 7 minutes up here. So without further ado, I'll throw up the answer here. And so I'm guessing that 75%, 73% is a lot higher than many of you are guessing. And that begs the question, why was 2015 so historically bad if we actually got a great deal more precipitation than we had the year before? And the answer to that question, for the most part, is that not all precipitation is created equal. So here in the western US, about 80% of our water supply comes from the snowpack, comes from snowmelt. And the reason for that is that snow serves as our battery. So just like if you have excess power from a solar panel during the day and you use a battery, you can then store that energy and release it at night when the sun goes down. Snow allows us to store the water from the high precipitation months in the winter and use it in the high water demand months in the spring and summer for agricultural and urban demand. So the problem with 2014 was that it was an incredibly warm year, so most of that precipitation fell as rain. And so we had the rain in the winter when we didn't necessarily need it, and come spring and summer when we needed it, the water wasn't there. Unfortunately, that's a trend that's just going to increase with climate change. So as climate change warms our winters, it puts our winters closer to the freezing point such that small fluctuations in the temperature will lead to drastically different snowpacks. So snowpacks that were formerly considered reliable are now going to vary year to year. This is a problem for California, but it's also a problem for the world. Close to 2 billion people around the world live in basins that are snowmelt fed and simultaneously lack the instantaneous spring and summer rainfall to support either current or projected human demands. So that means that close to a quarter of the world's population is in some way at the mercy of variable snowpacks. Of course, with all of that with fluctuations in water availability comes a whole host of health issues, ranging from waterborne diseases due to the use of stagnant water sources, all the way to increased duration and intensity of heat waves when farmers are not able to water their crops anymore. So with the reliability of snowpacks beginning to decrease and affecting water availability and these health issues, it becomes more and more critical year to year to understand exactly how much snow is in our mountains at a given point in time. So the question is, how well do we know how much snow is in the mountains? And unfortunately, the answer is not very well. Many of the techniques we use today here in California are the same techniques that we used back in the 1920s to estimate how much snow we had. And that's here in California, where we have a very advanced water management operations. If you think about more resource-constrained settings, you can forget about any sort of monitoring. So that's the bad news. The good news is that I think we're pretty close to a revolution in the way that we monitor snow. So where I think we're headed and where I hope we're headed is towards a kind of global real-time estimate for the water content of snowpacks in different watersheds around the world, much like we have global weather analyses that tell us what the weather is at every grid point around the world. That's the goal. We're not there yet, and in order to get there, we're going to need better data, and we're going to need better tools to integrate that data across various spatial scales. So we're already beginning to collect snow data in new and exciting ways. This is a picture from the Airborne Snow Observatory mission, which is conducted by the Jet Propulsion Lab just down the way in Pasadena. And they're flying an airplane over watersheds in California and Colorado with a laser-based device called LiDAR, which can measure the snow depth at very high resolution at every single point within the watershed. So this is data that wasn't available 5 years ago, and is changing the way we look at estimation of snowpack. Of course, it's also really expensive. So simultaneously, as we're developing these new tools, we need to be taking advantage of cheap and currently available tools for gathering snow data. So this is a professional avalanche forecaster that's measuring the density profile of the snow and the snow depth next to this big avalanche crown that you can see in the background. So this is data that's being collected on a daily basis throughout our watersheds, but isn't yet making its way into operational use. So taking advantage, tapping into these crowdsourcing opportunities is an easy way to diversify the availability, diversify the location and the type of data that we're gathering. But of course, not every water management operation is going to have the resources to fly a plane that shoots lasers out of its wings over its watershed every week. So we need tools to model snow in areas that we're not going to be able to directly observe it. So this means integrating data that we do have all the way from the molecular scale and from the snow crystal scale, which tells us about the density and the reflectivity of snow, all the way up to the very spatially extensive satellite data, which tells us about global snow coverage, but doesn't yet tell us anything about depth. So when we add in the new data sources that I was speaking of in the previous slide to these kind of extremes in scale, we have the foundation that we need to develop much more sophisticated physical and statistical models that can help us determine how much water is in snowpacks where we aren't directly measuring the snow depth. So that's kind of my lightning talk about this. So we have new data and new models. This isn't going to get us to a place where we can create water, obviously. But it does prepare us to adapt to the inevitable increasing variability of our snowpacks around the world. So what it allows us to do are actions like the following. It allows hydropower operators to optimize how much electricity they're generating while still understanding that they're going to maintain the adequate spring and summer inflows to provide the water supply in those months. It's going to allow for more dynamic water allocations to agricultural and urban uses based on a year-to-year basis that are more adaptive to changing timing and magnitudes of snowmelt. And of course, it's going to allow policymakers and public health officials to better target drought response in advance during the winter with the knowledge of where exactly in their domains are going to experience the most acute water scarcity in the coming spring and summer months. Thank you very much.